Welcome back to Outlaws and Gunslingers. We are your hosts, Bang and Dang, a.k.a. the Mouthy Michiganders, and we are smack dab in the middle, officially in the middle after this is over, of our four-part Wyatt Earp series. This part's parts two. This one is going to be all about the OK Corral, everything leading up to what happened in detail. Who shot who, how long it took, which routes they took, where they were standing, all that type of shit, and the aftermath leading up to the world-famous Earp Vendetta Ride. Well, in part one of our four-part series, if you joined us, we looked at the early life of Wyatt and his trouble with the law and becoming a lawman himself. He eventually arrives in Tombstone with his brothers, and we see the events that lead up to the infamous shootout at the OK Corral.
Tell you what, Wyatt had a hell of a life.
He sure did, gambling.
Early on.
What was he known as, a pimp?
Early on. How old is he now?
He's probably only 20-something.
Maybe 20, 21?
Right. Yeah. Known as a pimp, which was an insult. Well, I mean, it's still kind of an insult today. Who wants to be a pimp?
We all know he loved brothels and fucking...
women.
Gambling, bars.
Well, by the time when they got in Tombstone...
Loved ice cream.
He started messing around with Sheriff Bayhan's woman.
Yep.
Cowboys are trying
instantly too. Instantly. Well, if you go by the movie.
Right. I mean, pretty much so.
It was like, oh, bam, you mine. She's like, yes, I am.
The Cowboys trying to frame Doc Holliday.
Went both ways, right?
For a stagecoach robbery.
They were both consenting adults, weren't they?
I mean, right. It's not like he raped her or anything.
Well,
he might have. gave her some laudanum.
Right.
From Wyatt messing around with Sheriff Bayhan's woman, this Cowboys trying to frame Doc Holliday for a stagecoach robbery, to the ever-growing tensions between the Cowboys and the Earps. You already know this one's not going to end well. We're seriously going to get in-depth about this whole fucking shooting.
We have to.
So I hope you guys enjoy, because if you're a fucking history buff, specifically for the Wild Wild West.
Wild Wild West.
And
it's the Wild Wild Earp.
Wild Wild Earp.
Wyatt Earp.
Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp. But this is going to be a good one, so take a listen.
Right. We're going to get down to business with this.
So in this one, we're basically leaving off where we left off. What the fuck? I can't even talk. We left off, basically Clanton's dudes fucking robbed a stagecoach and took the strong box and the passengers' fucking belongings. They were recognized by their voices and language. They were identified as Deputy Sheriff Pete Spence and Deputy Sheriff Frank Stillwell, a business partner of Spence's. Stillwell was fired a short while later as a deputy sheriff for Sheriff Bayhan, and Wyatt and Virgil Earp rode with the sheriff's posse to track the stage robbers.
Right.
Wyatt discovered an unusual boot print in the mud.
He did.
The posse checked with a shoemaker in Bisbee and found a matching heel that he just removed from Stillwell's boot. Further check of Bisbee Corral turned up both Spence and Stillwell, who were arrested by sheriff's deputies Billy Breckenridge and Nagel.
All right, so we got that.
Spence and Stillwell are arraigned on the robbery charges, $7,000 bail. They're released after paying and rearrested by Virgil for the Bisbee robbery a month later on a new federal charge of interfering with a mail carrier. The newspapers, however, reported that they had been arrested for a different stagecoach robbery, which occurred on October 8th.
Which wasn't true?
No.
Or was it true?
Near Contention City, Arizona, less than 2 weeks before the OK Corral shootout, and this final incident may have been misunderstood by the McAlories. Events now move rapidly toward a final showdown. Old Man Clanton was shot and killed by a band of vaqueros during a wrestling attempt below the border. His eldest son, Ike, who rushed judgments would prove fatal, took the family reins. Fire sweeps through the business district of Tombstone, and Virgil Earp gets...
1881, that was the year.
1881. Virgil Earp becomes the senior deputy in the city, and already fucking hostile Clantons didn't like that.
Nope.
Of course, Josie continues to
New
fuck
sheriff
Wyatt.
In town, right?
Now, Bayhan's a sheriff, but
I'm saying, basically.
Virgil Earp is the senior deputy marshal.
Basically, he's the new sheriff in town. Basically.
Josie's still fucking Wyatt, and Bayhan cannot fucking stand that shit, so...
Right.
While Wyatt and Virgil were out of town for the Spence and Stillwell hearing, Frank McLaury confronted Morgan Earp, telling him that the McLaurys would kill the Earps if they tried to arrest Spence Stillwell or the McLaurys again.
Ooh.
And these threats would obviously lead up to this infamous gunfight, murder.
Well, I was like, I will not be intimidated.
Right. murder charges being filed against the Earps and Holiday. Further attacks on the Earp and eventually the world famous Earp Vendetta Ride.
Morgan. Yeah, so Morgan's left by himself.
Morgan and he had his other brother there.
Right. And then Wyatt came back in town and was like, he did what?
Yeah, so that's where we left off. So now we're going to pick up, we kind of start like not a foreshadowing, but how some of these TV shows start off with the outcome and then flashback to what happened. This is Wyatt Earp at his murder trial after the gunfight, and then once we get these fucking things to set the scene, basically, we'll get into the actual gunfight.
Wyatt Earp testified after the gunfight that 5 or 6 weeks prior, he had met Ike Clanton outside the Alhambra Hotel. Is it Alhambra or
I think it's Alhambra.
Right. Ike told Wyatt that Doc Holliday had told him he knew of Ike's meeting with Wyatt.
Okay.
And he knew about Ike providing information on Head, Leonard, and Crane.
What is this, a law firm?
Right. Head, Leonard, and Crane. As well as their attempted robbery of the stage.
Look at Ike being a little snitch.
Right, little bitch.
Little bitch.
Stitches. Ike now accused Earp. All right. Ike now accused Earp of telling Holiday about these conversations. He's like, you said something. Earp's like, what? He's like, I'm going to testify that I didn't.
Remember, he's testifying now.
Oh, yeah. Earp was like, no, sure and fuck didn't tell Holiday nothing. Wyatt Earp offered to prove this when Holiday and the Clantons next returned to town. He was like, give me a couple days. One of them will be here.
This is kind of setting up. It's kind of like the backstory of why Ike got so pissed.
Right.
At Wyatt leading up into the fucking
I mean, like, it wasn't obvious. You get people like the Earps and Doc Holliday into a town, they notice fucking anarchy and fucking just fucking stupidity, and they're not gonna stand up for that shit, especially while they're in town.
Well, a month after Ike,
I mean, look everywhere that the fucking Earps went.
Right. Something happened.
Look everywhere Doc Holliday went. He had to.
This is like no fucking except for Dodge City.
All right.
But yeah, a month later, after that confrontation with Ike, after he accused Wyatt of telling Holiday, which was the weekend before the shootout, Morgan Earp was concerned about possible trouble with the Cowboys.
Uh-oh.
He asked Doc Holliday to come back to Tombstone from a fiesta celebration in Tucson, where Holliday had been gambling.
Doc is living his life because he knows.
Well, upon his return, Wyatt Earp asked Holliday about Ike's accusation. On the morning of Tuesday, October 25th, 1881, the day before the gunfight, Ike Clanton and Tom McLaury drove 10 miles in a spring wagon.
Well, they didn't drive.
From
they rode.
Chandler's Milk Ranch at the foot of the Dragoon Mountains.
Would it still be drive just because it wasn't a car?
Sure. You're still driving the horse, right?
You're not driving it. You're riding it.
Yeah, but you're directing where the horse goes.
I don't think they call it drove back then.
Oh, of course you did.
A
ride.
I'm going to take a drive. Jump on the horse. Hey, I'm going to take a drive.
Take a drive to clear my head.
Right. Jump on a horse and gallop away.
Right.
Well,
I don't know if that was supposed to be a horse, but that didn't sound like a horse at all.
Right. Maybe that's where Alan Jackson got that song, When Daddy Let Me Drive. I was just a little stupid boy.
It was just an old rumming down mare.
It was 1846. Yeah. She was just an old gray-haired mare.
Anyways, Ike Clanton and Tom McLaury drive 10 miles in a spring wagon from Chandler's Milk Ranch at the foot of the Dragoon Mountains to Tombstone. They were in town to sell a large number of beef stock.
That's a commodity,
hot
commodity right there.
Most of them, which was owned by the McLaurys.
Mm-hmm. Where Fred Dodge, an undercover detective for Wells Fargo, heard about J.B. Ayers.
No, you didn't hear about him.
Well, you heard about him. Oh. Fred Dodge, an undercover detective for Wells Fargo, he got a phone call from. He didn't get a phone call.
No phone call.
He got a telegraph. Would it be a telegraph?
I mean, probably.
Telegram? A telegram.
I don't think you had to have a telegram when they're in the same town, but
it could have been, or a fucking Morse code, or whatever. Right? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Well, anyway, let's do that again.
I don't think so, dang.
Right. Fred Dodge, an undercover detective for Wells Fargo.
Fred Dodge.
Fred Dodge heard from J.B. Ayers, another undercover Wells Fargo man, in contention that Frank McLaury, Bill Clanton, Billy Claiborne, they're all in town.
Okay.
And guess what they were doing? They're planning to join Ike Clanton and Tom. What's Tom's last name?
McLaury.
Tom McLaury. And Tom McLaury. And guess what?
Tombstone.
Guess what city? You guessed it. Fucking Tombstone. And when? You're right. Fucking hump day.
Hump day. I'm fucking hump day. Hump day in Tombstone.
It was the Hump Day Massacre. Wait,
no,
the next day.
It's not. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, yeah, they went there on Wednesday afternoon to Tombstone. Dodge, who had been very sick, he got up right away. And
So maybe it was a telegraph since JB Ayers
right.
was in contention.
Telegram, right? Telegram.
And then it couldn't have been a telegram. That would take too long.
Right.
So he heard from JB Ayers, who was in contention. Fred Dodge is in Tombstone. So he's telling him, hey, look, these motherfuckers are headed your way.
Right.
So you better be watching out.
Dodge was sick. He's like, oh, man. He's like, oh, but he got up instantly. That's a good friend there. I got to save these guys' lives. So he went and found Virgil.
Well, he went looking for Virgil.
Oh, yeah, he went looking for Virgil. But he ended up finding Tombstone Deputy City Marshal Morgan Earp at the Alhambra Saloon.
Alhambra.
Instead, and he was like, fuck it, I guess you're good enough. And guess what happened, bud? Near midnight, Holiday saw Clanton in Alhambra Saloon and confronted Ike, accusing him of lying about their previous conversations.
Uh-oh, so now fucking Wyatt told Holiday
right.
that Ike told him that Holiday told him that Wyatt told him, and now he's like, it's a he said, she said shit at this point.
So they got into a fucking heated argument there. They're doing what they're doing back and forth. Wyatt Earp, who was not wearing a badge, encouraged his brother Morgan to intervene.
Oh, so he's like, I don't have my badge on right now, Morgan.
Check it out, Morgan.
You got to fucking intervene on this.
Right. So Morgan's like, fuck. So Morgan had to go up to Doc, and he was like, we're going to go on the street, bud. And Ike, who had been drinking steadily, he was like, all right, here's my chance.
Right. What's stopping me from following you?
He fucking staggeredly stalked. How you say that? A stagger stalk? He stagger stalked him.
He's
with that intent look on his face. You ever watched Back to the Future, the one where they're in the Wild Wild West?
Back to the Future, the third.
What's it called? Back to the Future third.
Back to the Future 3.
Yeah, it's called something.
No.
How the West was won?
No, it's Back to the Future 3. That's it.
You sure?
Yes.
I think there's like a fucking subtitle or another name. The Western.
I think it's just Back to the Future 3, man.
Well, anyway, when you got what the fuck his face? What the fuck's his name? Damn it, I can't even think of his name now. I was just thinking of it.
Mad Dog Tannen.
Yeah, Mad Dog Tannen.
Buford Mad Dog
Buford
Tannen.
Mad Dog Tannen.
Yeah.
Like, nobody calls me Mad Dog.
Nobody calls me Mad Dog. What's your name, boy?
He's like Marty Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood.
He's
like, you know how to dance? He's like, dance, boy. And then he's like, they're like, what the fuck?
Great movie.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Okay, you got that out of your system now?
I do.
So, yeah, he's stalking him like Biff or Mad Dog Tannen would.
Right. And
right.
He follows him out to the street.
Right.
Steadily follow them. Marshal Virgil Earp arrived a few minutes later and threatened to arrest both Holiday and Clanton if they did not stop this whole public commotion.
Right.
You guys are causing a scene.
I mean, what a great non-partisan fucking sheriff or marshal there is, huh? He's like, I'll arrest fucking both of you, man.
You motherfuckers.
We're going to stop this fucking shit right now.
Both of you guys can go in the clink for the night.
In the clink.
Cool yourselves down. You're causing a ruckus.
I'm having this shit on my streets.
You're causing a ruckus. Even Chauncey agrees.
Well, after that arguing, Wyatt Earp walks over to the Oriental Saloon, and Ike followed him.
Okay.
They talked again, and Ike threatened to confront Holiday in the morning. Ike told Earp that the fight-in talk had been going on for a long time and that he intended to put an end to it.
Yep, no more talk.
Ike told Earp, I will be ready for you in the morning. Wyatt told Ike to go home because there was no money in it. There's no money in this. Ike sat down near Wyatt, his revolver in plain sight, and told Earp, you must not think I won't be after you all in the morning. You must not think I won't be after you all in the morning. Virgil Earp went to the Occidental Saloon across the street, meanwhile.
Right. After Holiday's confrontation with Ike Clanton, Wyatt Earp took Holiday back to his room at the Kamala Sidney Buckfly's lodging house. Damn. To sleep off his drunkenness. Because fucking Doc had been on the bender.
Right.
Some bitch would be up for odd hours of the day. Just drinking away.
Well, remember, he just got back in town from a festival that he was gambling at. And you know damn well he was up fucking, what, how many days straight gambling? This dude probably came back with, remember, he came to Tombstone. He came to Tombstone originally with $40,000, which we know is equivalent to $1 million.
Right.
And he probably won even more when he was in Tucson.
Yeah. Well, after fucking Wyatt took Doc back to his little bungalow, Wyatt went home and went to bed. He's like, I'm tired. I need to get at least 45 minutes sleep. Tombstone Marshal Virgil Earp played poker with Ike Clanton, Tom McClary, and the Cochise County Sheriff,
Look at
Johnny
Virgil.
Gahan.
Look at Virgil out there playing fucking poker with all the enemies right now.
And a fifth by himself in the middle of the night.
Right.
And an unnamed man in the back of a room at the Occidental.
But I bet you the whole time they were playing, they were probably fucking shitting on each other and having a good time and drinking and fucking
shit.
Right.
Right. They did that until early morning. At about dawn on the 26th of October, the card game broke up and Behan and Virgil Earp went home. Like, we're going to bed.
Fuck this.
Ike Clanton said, fuck that.
Okay.
I ain't going to bed. Wait, no, he didn't. No, Ike Clanton testified later that he saw Virgil take a 6-shooter out of his lap and stick it in his pants when the game ended.
So fucking Virgil was ready.
Right.
He had his fucking pistol right there on his fucking lap. Anybody want to try something, he's shooting right on the table. Mm-hmm. Well, not having rented a room, old Tom McClory and Ike Clanton had no place to go. That's very bad for murderous drunks.
Right.
Shortly after 8 a.m., barkeeper E.F. Boyle spoke to Ike Clanton in front of the telegraph office. Clanton had been drinking all night, and Boyle encouraged him to get some sleep, but Ike insisted he would not go to bed. Boyle later testified he noticed Ike was armed and covered his gun for him. Boyle later said that Ike told him as soon as the Earps and Doc Holliday showed themselves on the street, the ball would open, that they would have no choice but to fight. I went down to Wyatt Earp's house and told him that Ike Clanton had threatened that when Wyatt, his brothers, and Doc showed themselves on the street, that the ball would open. That's exactly what Ike just said.
Oh, no shit. Ike said in his testimony afterward that he did not remember meeting Boyle or making any such statements that day. Deputy Marshal Andy Bronk also heard the talk around town. He woke Virgil, who listened. All right. And he's like, fuck, I'm going back to sleep.
He's like, fuck you, Andy.
Yeah, fuck those guys. I'm going back to sleep. Ike's ongoing threats were not worth losing sleep for Virgil. He's like, I'm going to bed. Later that morning, Ike picked up his rifle and also his revolver from the West End Corral. I guess that's where it was, right? About to leave town, but he didn't leave town. Did a little switcheroo. Right. By noon that day, Ike was still drinking, and once again,
that's where he deposited his weapons and stayed with his wagon
in
the West End Corral.
Yeah,
right.
Obviously, when he got into town, that's where you gotta your check-in.
Right.
So when he went back to check out,
right,
like a hotel, and did a loop-de-loop.
Right.
What are you gonna do, bitch? Nothing. Because we're unarmed. This is what happens in an unarmed society. People like you come in and mortar us.
Gun laws don't work.
Anyway, by high noon, Ike was still drinking and once again very, very much armed. In violation of city ordinance, by the way. You're not allowed to carry firearms in the city. And he knew this.
He knew it.
And he's also threatening life. That's enough right there to get like attempted murder, right? Just even if you see him in town.
Threats, maybe?
Threats the day before, and now he has a weapon in town. That's attempted murder, moida, I believe, right? Attempt to do bodily harm, at least. Intent, not attempt. Intent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it goes, you can't wrestle. You can't arrest somebody who hasn't committed a crime, besides the guns in town, but take those away again, you're good, right?
I guess. Well, he was also telling anyone who listened that morning that he was looking for Holiday or an Earp.
Oh, so now we know why he has guns in town.
Right. Well, at Fly's boarding house where Holiday and his common-law wife, Mary Catherine Hornery, a.k.a. Big Nose Kate, they were sleeping.
Oh, Big Nose Kate, yeah.
The proprietor, Mary Fly, heard Clanton's threats and banged on Holiday's door. Fly told Horony, Ike Clanton was here looking for him, and he had a rifle with him. Horony woke Holiday and relayed the threat, who replied, if God will let me live to get my clothes on, he will see me.
Yeah.
Look at this provider, this fucking poetic motherfucker.
Right.
He just wakes up out of a fucking drunken sleep. He's like, if God will let me live to get my clothes on.
He's basically like, if I'm lucky enough to get out of this fucking bed, then, hey, whatever else happens.
If I'm lucky to get out of this bed, I'm going to
Right.
see Ike.
Right.
Pretty much, Ike will see me.
Right.
At about 1 p.m., Marshal Virgil and his deputy Morgan Earp found Ike on 4th Street, still armed.
Still armed, still drunk.
And Virgil pistol whipped him from behind.
Wham!
Disarming him, the Earps took Ike to appear before Justice of the Peace A.O. Wallace for violating the ordinance.
All right.
Wyatt waited with Clanton while Virgil went to find Justice Wallace so a court hearing could be held.
Well, during that time, witnesses overheard Wyatt tell Clanton, "You cattle thieving son of a bitch. And you know that I know you're a cattle thieving son of a bitch. You threaten my life enough, and you've got to fight." Ike Clanton was heard to reply, "Fight is my racket, and all I want is 4 feet of ground."
Oh, so he's like, "I'll fucking fight you, Wyatt. All I need is 4 feet from you."
He's like, fight is my racket. All I need is 4 feet of ground, sir. Wasn't that crazy if that's how he was?
I don't think that's how he sounded at all.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. It's sort of like, fight with my racket. My name is Emilio Cabrera.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Anyway, that's what he says. He says, fight is my racket, and all I want is 4 feet of the ground. Ike reported his testimony after that. Wyatt Earp cursed him.
Oh.
He's like, Wyatt Earp just cursed me out after this shit.
He just cursed me. What would
I was like,
you
whoa.
do?
I was cowering down every little, you motherfucker. Every finger point put me 5 inches closer to the ground. Until he was standing over top of me. I was begging for my life. He said that Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan offered him his rifle and to fight him right there in the fucking courthouse. Ike was like, no.
No.
No. Ike also denied ever threatening the Earps. He's like, I never did anything you're saying. Why am I here? Justice Wallace fined Ike $25, equivalent to $660 in 2019.
Okay.
Plus court costs, which we don't know the.
Right. Whatever the court cost was.
Probably like $3. Ike paid the fine, and Virgil. No, probably more than that, right? Ike paid the fine, and Virgil told Ike he could pick up his confiscated rifle and revolver at the Grand Hotel. Which, however, yeah.
Or just which.
Right. Which was favored by Cowboys when in town.
Okay, so that's the
So
Cowboys.
it's play for him to go.
Hotel, right.
Go to your fucking. It's like the bad boy table. Go to the bad boy table.
Go to your post.
Go to your fucking safe zone before you leave town and get the fuck out of here.
Your safe house.
Basically, right? Well, Ike later then testified that he picked up the weapons from William Soule, the jailer, a couple days later.
Oh, so he didn't even. Oh, he's saying he didn't go back to the Grand Hotel that day and get his fucking weapons.
Right.
Come on,
I
man.
don't know about that.
Outside the courthouse where Ike was being fined, Tombstone Deputy Marshal Wyatt almost walked into 28-year-old Tom McLaury as the two men were brought up short nose to nose. Tom, who had arrived in town the day before, was required by the well-known city ordinance to deposit his pistol when he first arrived in town. When Wyatt demanded, "Are you healed or not?" McLaury said he was not armed. Wyatt testified that he saw a revolver in plain sight on the right hip of Tom's pants. As an unpaid deputy marshal for Virgil, Wyatt habitually carried a pistol in his waistband, as was the custom of that time.
Right.
So, again, the fucking Clantons and the McLaurys defying the weapon thing, refusing to give up weapons, and lying to a fucking deputy marshal for one. I mean, come on. How do you expect this to turn out?
Right. I mean, what are you going to do? Well,
How do you expect this to turn out?
Well, I don't know. Witness reported that Wyatt drew his revolver from his coat pocket and then pistol whipped Tom McClary over the fucking head twice, leaving him bleeding in the street. Saloon keeper Andrew Meehan testified at Spicer hearing afterward that he saw McClary deposit a revolver at the Capitol Saloon sometime between, it was 1, 2 o'clock maybe, after confrontation with Wyatt.
So that's good.
Right. After confrontation with Wyatt, which Mahan also witnessed.
So that fucking pistol whipping, he's like, maybe I should deposit my weapons.
Right.
And he did. Okay.
Wyatt said in his deposition afterward that he had been temporarily acting as city marshal for Virgil the week before while Virgil was in Tucson.
Tucson, man.
Tucson. Well, anyway, Virgil was away, so Virgil was like, bitch, you're in charge. Wyatt's like, all right. And then he was like, bitches, I'm in charge. And everybody was like, all right. Except for Ike. I was like, no, I'm in charge. What are you going to do, right? Well, anyway, Virgil was in Tucson for Pete Spence and Frank Stilwell's trial. Wyatt said that he still considered himself a deputy city marshal, which Virgil later confirmed this to be true. He was.
Well, since Wyatt was an off-duty officer, he could not legally search or arrest Tom for carrying a revolver within the city limits, a misdemeanor offense. It was only a misdemeanor, too.
Okay.
Only Virgil or one of his city police deputies, including Morgan and possibly Warren Earp, could search him and take any required action. Wyatt, who was portrayed as a non-drinker, testified at the Spicer hearing that he went to Hafford's and bought a cigar and went outside to watch the Cowboys. At the time of the gunfight, about 2 hours later, Wyatt could not know if Tom was still armed. I mean, it's true. Couldn't possibly know. It was early afternoon by the time Ike and Tom had seen doctors for the head wounds. The day was chilly with snow still on the ground in some places. Both Tom and Ike had spent the night gambling, drinking heavily, and without sleep. Damn, so these motherfuckers are delirious at this point, pretty much. Now they were both out of doors, both wounded from head beatings, and at least Ike was still drunk. I mean, I'm right. You're fucking been drinking for 2 days.
Right,
You just got fucking smashed over the head a couple times, both.
Right.
And you're outside in the cold. I mean, oh, man. This is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. It was around 1:30, 2 o'clock p.m. after Tom had been pistol whipped by Wyatt. Ike's 19-year-old younger brother, Billy Clanton, and Tom's older brother, Frank McClory, arrived into town.
Oh, shit. Family members have arrived. You know how fucking this is going to get.
Right. They had heard from their neighbor, Ed Old Man Frank, that Ike had been stirring up trouble in town overnight. Right, and them boys, they had fucked up that town last night. So they had to get up on their horses and they had to ride it in town to see what the hell was going on. Where were they coming from, you asked? They came from Antelope Springs. That was 13 miles east of Tombstone, where they had been rounding up stock and had breakfast with Ike. Breakfasted? How you say that?
Breakfasted?
Breakfasted? They had breakfasted with Ike?
They had breakfast with Ike and Tom the day before, man.
Right. Both Frank and Billy were armed with a revolver and a rifle, as was the custom for riders in the country outside Tombstone. I mean, come on.
Obviously.
Apache warriors had engaged the United States Army near Tombstone just 3 weeks before the UK Corral gunfight.
The UK Corral for gunfight. These are just before the UK Corral for gunfight. What?
I don't. Fuck. Apache warriors had engaged.
It's Apache, man.
I know what it is. Apache warriors had engaged the United States Army near Newport. Son of a cunt bitch. Apache warriors had engaged the United States Army near Tombstone just 3 weeks before the OK Corral gunfight. So the need for weapons outside of town was well established and very well accepted.
I don't give a fuck if they had a skirmish a couple weeks before this at all. It was still fucking established and accepted way before this fucking any Apache warriors had engaged the U.S. Army. I mean, come on. Billy and Frank stopped first at the Grand Hotel on Allen Street and were greeted by Doc Holliday.
Okay.
They learned immediately after of their brother's beatings by the Earps within the previous 2 hours. The incidents had generated a lot of talk in town. You hear about Wyatt? He whipped the shit out of the McLaury guy.
Oh.
Well, angrily, Frank said he would not drink, and he and Billy left the saloon immediately to seek out Tom.
Oh, shit.
By law, both Frank and Billy should have left their firearms at the Grand Hotel, which we know they remained fully armed.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Wyatt Earp said that he saw Billy Clanton and Frank McLaury in Spangenberger's gun and hardware store on Fort Street, filling their gun belts with cartridges and all kinds of shit.
So if he saw this, why would he not immediately fucking put it into it?
Right. Ike testified afterward that Tom was not there and that he had tried to buy a new revolver from the owner, but the owner saw Ike's band in his head and refused to sell him anything. He was like, it looks like you got vengeance on your mind, son.
He's like, it looks like you got beat by one of those deputies out there.
I can't do anything for you, bud. Ike apparently had not heard Virgil tell him that his confiscated weapons were at the Grand Hotel. How can you not? It was right in front of his face, which was just around the corner from Spangenberger's shop.
Right.
It's like, dude, your fucking gun's over there, bud. When Virgil Earp learned that Wyatt was talking to the Cowboys at Spangenberger's, he went there himself. He was like, oh, shit. Fucking Wyatt got a big mouth. Something going to happen. Gotta go. Well, Virgil testified afterward that he thought he saw all four men, Ike, Billy, Frank, and Tom, They're all buying cartridges.
Okay, well, Virgil went around the corner on Allen Street to the Wells Fargo office, where he picked up a 10-gauge or a 12-gauge, one of them. It was a short, double-barreled shotgun,
There's
either
so many
or.
ors or ifs.
Right.
What is going on here?
It was an unusually cold and windy day in Tombstone, and Virgil was wearing a long overcoat. To avoid alarming Tombstone's public, Virgil hid the shotgun under his overcoat when he returned to Hafford's saloon.
He did.
From Spangenberg's, the Cowboys moved to the OK Corral, where witnesses overheard them threatening to kill the Earps. Well, for unknown reasons, the Cowboys then walked out of the back of the OK Corral and then west, stopping in a narrow, empty lot next to C.S. Fly's boarding house.
Okay.
Which, I think we'll get to that later, but the shootout at the OK Corral wasn't actually in the OK Corral.
No.
It's in this lot next to fucking C.S. Fly's.
Right. Virgil initially avoided a confrontation with the newly arrived Frank McClary and Billy Clanton, who had not yet deposited their weapons at the hotel or stable as law required. They had to, right?
Right.
They had to. The statute was not specific, however. How recently they have to... How recently... How far a recently arrived visitor might, in good faith, within reasonable time, travel in town while carrying a firearm. Oh, wait a minute. See, that's why I hate law. Shit like that.
Who knows how long a reasonable time is?
Right. Nobody knows.
Well, this permitted a traveler to keep his firearms if he was proceeding directly to a livery, hotel or saloon,
right.
which they've already stopped at a saloon, so I don't know why that would even be important.
Right.
That about it not being specific, because they already stopped at a saloon, so
that's true.
They were already required to fucking turn in their firearms.
Yeah, so there's questions on that. Well, anyway, the three main Tombstone corrals were all west of 4th Street between Allen and Fremont, a block or two from where Wyatt saw the Cowboys buying their ammo. Miner Reuben F. Coleman later told the Tombstone Epitaph, this is, and I quote, remember that. I was in the OK Corral at 2:30 p.m. when I saw the two Clantons and the two McClarys in an earnest conversation across the street at Dunbar's Corral. I went up the street and notified Sheriff Behan and told him it was my opinion that it meant trouble. And it was his duty as the sheriff of this town to go and disarm those fellers. He says them. I told him they had gone to the West End Corral. I then went and saw Marshal Virgil Earp and notified him the same effect.
Well, Cochise County Sheriff Johnny Behan, a friend of the Cowboys, later testified that he woke up at about 1:30 p.m. These lazy-ass motherfuckers.
Right. Holy shit.
After the late night,
like 6
after the late night card game and went to get a shave at the barbershop. That's where he first learned that the Cowboys were armed. Behan stated he quickly finished his shave,
right,
and went to locate the Cowboys. At about 2:30 p.m., he found Frank McClory holding a horse and talking to someone on 4th Street near the corner of Fremont.
Uh-oh.
When he saw Ike Clanton and Tom McClory near Fly's photography studio, he walked there with Frank. He told the Cowboys they must give up their arms. You guys got to give up their arms. Ike Clanton said, I'm not armed. Right. Tom McClory pulled his coat open to show he was not carrying a weapon either.
Hey, check this out, guys. Nothing. What are you going to do?
Nothing. You can't fucking take something we don't have.
Now what's your beef?
Right.
Keep walking.
Behan.
Right. The Cowboys were located in a narrow 15 to 20-foot lot between the Hardwood House and Fly's 12-room boarding house and a photography studio at 312 Fremont Street.
Right.
Where Doc Holliday also was roomed.
Yes.
Behan later said he attempted to persuade Frank McClory to give up his weapons. But Frank insisted that he would not.
Wait, didn't it just say they showed him that he didn't have no fucking weapons? Well, it was Ike and Tom, not Frank, so.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Frank's like, I'm not giving up my weapons.
Right. And Frank was like, I will not give up my weapons unless Virgil and his brothers are disarmed as well. First,
yeah.
The Cowboys were about a block and a half from the West End Corral at 2nd Street and Fremont, where Ike and Tom's wagon team were stabled. So just chilling there trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. Virgil Earp later testified that he thought Ike and Tom were stabled at the OK Corral on Allen between 3rd and 4th.
Okay.
From which he thought they would be departing if they were to be leaving the town.
All right. Well, Ike Clanton later said he was planning to leave town. Frank McClory reported that he had decided to remain behind but take care of some business.
Okay.
Will McClory, Tom and Frank's brother, and a judge in Fort Worth, Texas, claimed in a letter he wrote during the preliminary hearing after the shootout that Tom and Frank were still armed because they were planning to conduct business before leaving town to visit him in Texas. He wrote that Billy Clanton, who had arrived on horseback with Frank, intended to go with the McClorys to Fort Worth.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
but you're conducting business out of town on your way to go see you. So
Right.
why do they still have their weapons in town?
Right.
Come on, Judge.
What's
Come on,
going
Judge.
What's going on there? Well, citizens reported to Virgil on the Cowboys' movements, and their threats told him that Ike and Tom had left their livery stable and entered town while armed.
Obviously.
In violation of, guess what? The city ordinance. Well, Virgil Earp was told by several citizens that McClary and the Clantons had gathered on Fremont Street. They're like, them motherfuckers over there on Fremont.
They're on Fremont. They're gathering.
Right. They're gathering there.
And guess what? This ain't no fucking 2021 COVID violation.
Yeah, and Virgil's like, it's time. Gotta go get these weapons. His decisions to take action may have been influenced by the Cowboys' repeated threats to the Earps, though.
What the fuck you think? What do you mean? It may have been
right.
An action on fucking.
Right.
It may have been influenced by that. Obviously,
Right.
it fucking was.
And their proximity to the Holidays' room in Fly's boarding house,
You know shit.
and also their location on en route to the Earps usually take to their homes. So these motherfuckers are chilling when they know we go.
They know that Doc's gonna get
Holidays there.
They know that Doc's gonna get out of his room and walk straight past them.
They know that weird walking past them.
Right. I mean, come on.
Clearly.
Several members of the Citizens Vigilance Committee offered to support him with arms, but Virgil refused.
Right.
Said, we don't want no fucking outbreak of no fucking violence. We're just going to go down there as lawmen.
Right.
He had, during the prior month, appointed Morgan as a special policeman. He also appointed Wyatt as a special policeman while Virgil had been in Prescott on business. He had also called on Doc Holliday that morning for help with disarming the Clantons and McLaurys.
And Doc was a certified deputy that day.
Yeah. Wyatt spoke of his brothers Virgil and Morgan as the marshals while he acted as deputy.
Right.
Virgil Earp picked up the shotgun he had retrieved from the Wells Fargo office earlier. He gave the shotgun to Doc Holliday, who hid it under his overcoat.
He did.
He took Holliday's walking stick in return.
Per usual, the Earps carried their revolvers in their coat pockets or in their waistbands. Wyatt Earp was carrying a 44 caliber. Right. Wyatt Earp was carrying a 44 caliber American 1869 Smith & Wesson revolver.
Okay.
Holliday was carrying a nickel-plated pistol in a holster, but this was concealed by his long coat, and as well as that shotgun. The Earps and Holliday walked west, down the south side of Fremont Street, past the rear entrance up to the OK Corral, but out of visual range from the Cowboys at their last reported location, where they was gathered out there in the middle of the street doing what they're doing, drinking their whiskey, slapping their horse. Think they had the horse with them? Did they have horse?
You'll see.
I don't think they had horse with them. It was just them by themselves, right? Anyway, they're near the corner of 4th Street and Fremont Street. The Earps ran into Sheriff Behan there, and Behan is going to talk to them, right? What's he going to say? The Earps ran into Sheriff Behan. He had left the Cowboys and came toward them. Though he looked nervously backwards several times, Virgil testified afterward that Behan told him, "For God's sake, don't go down there. They will murder you. They're killers."
Why would you tell the Earps,
Right.
don't go down there or they're going to murder you? I mean, what do you think the fucking first thing they're going to do?
Wyatt said that Behan told him and Morgan, "I have disarmed them." So Behan's telling them that they're disarmed, but then he's also telling them, "Don't go down there. They'll murder you." How?
Right.
Well, Behan testified afterward that he had only said he'd gone down to the Cowboys for the purpose of disarming them, not that he actually disarmed them.
I can see where that could be misconstrued, though. Behan's like, look, I went down there to disarm them.
All right.
And Wyatt could have took that as I went down there and disarmed them.
All right.
So I can see where the discrepancy would be there. Well, one eyewitness, laundryman Peter H. Fallahy, wrote in his testimony afterward that Virgil Earp told Behan, "Those men have made their threats, and I will not arrest them, but I will kill them on sight." Damn.
Oh, damn.
When Behan said he had disarmed them, Virgil attempted to avoid a fight. "I had a walking stick in my left hand, and my hand was on my 6-shooter in my waist
Virgil
pants."
attempted to avoid a fight.
Yeah, and he said he would and when he said he had disarmed them, I shoved it clean around to my left hip and changed my walking stick to my right hand, meaning my gun hand is occupied by my fucking by this walking stick now, and my gun's turned around so I can't really reach it. Well, Wyatt said, "I took my pistol, which I had in my hand, under my coat and put it in my overcoat pocket." The Earps walked further down Fremont Street and came into full view of the Cowboys in the lot.
All right.
Okay, so now the Cowboys saw them, and shit's getting fucking good.
Right. So Wyatt testified he saw Frank McClary, Tom McClary, and Billy Clanton standing in a row against the east side of the building on the opposite side of the vacant space on the west side of the Fly's Whoa! The photograph gallery right there at the Fly's. Ike Clanton, Billy Claiborne, and a man I don't even know, says Wyatt, his name is Wes Fuller, come to find out, were standing in the vacant space about halfway between the photograph gallery and the next building west.
Okay.
Eddie Borland corroborated Wyatt's testimony, said, yeah, that's true, stating that she saw 5 men opposite my house leaning against a small house west of Fly's Gallery, and one man was standing holding a horse and standing out of a little ways from the house.
Right. Martha J. King was in Bauer's Butcher Shop located on Fremont Street. She testified that when the Earp party passed by her location, one of the Earps on the outside of the group looked across and said to Doc Holliday nearest the store, "Let them have it." To which Holliday replied, "All right."
All right.
When the Earps approached the lot, the Ford lawman initially faced 6 cowboys: Frank McClory, Tom McClory, Billy and Ike Clanton, Billy Claiborne, and Wes Fuller. When the cowboys saw the officers, they stepped away from the Harwood house, ready for a confrontation. They're like, all right, here we go, boys.
Oh, shit. In testimony given by witnesses afterward, they disagreed about the precise location of the men before, during, and after the gunfight. The coroner's inquest and the specialist hearing produced a sketch showing the cowboys standing. They're like, well, this is what we think. From left to right, facing Fremont Street, with Billy Clanton and then Frank McClary near the hardware house, and Tom McClary and Ike Clanton roughly in the middle of the lot. Opposite them, and initially only about 6 to 10 feet away, Virgil Earp was on the left end of the Earp party, standing a few feet inside the vacant lot and nearest Ike Clanton.
Okay. Well, behind him, a few feet near the corner of Fly's boarding house, was Wyatt. Morgan Earp was standing on Fremont Street to Wyatt's right, and Doc Holliday anchored the end of their line on the right, a few feet from Morgan. Wyatt Earp drew a sketch in 1924 and another with John Flood in 1926 that depicted Billy Clanton near the middle of the lot, close to the Harwood house. When Tom and Frank McClory stood deeper in the lot, Frank was in the center between the two buildings holding the reins of his horse. Remember how you said, did they have a horse? There's your horse.
There's the horse.
Tom was closer to C.S. Fly's boarding house. According to Wyatt's sketches, Morgan was on the right side of the lawman, close to the Harwood house, opposite Billy Clanton near the Harwood house and close to Fremont Street. Virgil was deeper in the lot, opposite Frank and Ike, and Wyatt was to Virgil's left, opposite of Tom. Doc Holliday hung back a step or two on Fremont. So that's a whole different fucking telling, huh?
Definitely is.
Neither of Wyatt's sketches included Ike or Billy Claiborne, who ran from the fight.
They didn't get murdered, did they?
Mm-mm. Billy might have.
I don't know. Virgil,
Ike definitely didn't.
Virgil was not expecting a fight. Once Bayhan said that he disarmed the cowboys, Virgil traded the short, double-barreled shotgun he was carrying for Holliday's cane. Virgil carried the cane in his right hand and shifted the pistol into his waistband from the right side to his left. We already did that.
Right.
Holliday concealed the short shotgun under his long jacket. Wyatt, too, was not expecting a fight and put his pistol in his overcoat. We said that. Billy Clanton and Frank McClary wore revolvers in holsters on their belts and stood alongside their saddle horses, so they had their pistols in sight with rifles in their scabbards. So the rifle right in the fucking horse's fucking
right on the side of the horse, pretty much, right?
Pull that bitch out, possibly in violation of city ordinance prohibiting carrying weapons in town. Not possibly, but most likely, 100%. Violating.
I don't know. Not if it's on their horse, though. I don't know if that would be a violation.
Well, the pistols on their fucking selves were.
That would be.
On their person. On the person.
On their person. Well, when Virgil saw the cowboys, he testified he immediately commanded the cowboys to throw up your hands. I want your guns.
Throw up your hands. I want your guns.
Wyatt said Virgil told the cowboys, throw up your hands. I have come to disarm you.
Disarm.
Virgil and Wyatt both testified they saw Frank McClory and Billy Clanton draw and cock their single-action 6-shot revolvers. Virgil yelled, hold on, I don't mean that. Or, hold on, I don't want that. Either or. Jeff Morey, who served as a historical consultant on the film Tombstone, compared testimony by partisan and neutral witnesses and came to the conclusion that the Earps described the situation accurately.
Who started shooting first is not very certain. Accounts by both participants and eyewitnesses are contradictory. The smoke from the black powder used in the weapons added to the confusion of the gunfight in the narrow space and how quick it lasted. We don't know.
Well, we do know because you're about to tell everybody.
Those loyal to one side or the other told conflicting stories, and
Obviously.
independent eyewitnesses who did not know the participants by sight were unable to say for certain who shot first.
Right.
I don't fucking know. The 6 or 7 men with guns fired about 30 shots in about 30 fucking seconds.
Can you imagine that, dude? All you hear for 30 seconds is... That's crazy.
And maybe you get that last one.
And then everything's silent. Well, Virgil Earp reported afterwards 2 shots went off right together. Billy Clanton's was one of them. Wyatt testified, Billy Clanton leveled his pistol at me, but I did not aim at him. I knew that Frank McLaury had the reputation of being a good shot and a dangerous man, so I aimed at him. He said he shot Frank McLaury after both he and Billy Clanton went for their revolvers. The first 2 shots were fired by Billy and myself. He shooting at me and I shooting at Frank. Maury agreed that Billy and Wyatt Earp fired first. Clanton missed, but Earp shot Frank in the stomach.
Oh.
Of course he did.
All witnesses generally agreed the first 2 shots were almost indistinguishable from each other. General firing immediately broke out. Then after that, it was just fucking.
It was just
bam.
fucking pandemonium. Everybody's going crazy.
Right. It was fire.
It was indistinguishable. Right. So it sounded like one, but loud.
And then it was
like.
And it was like, oh, you motherfuckers!
Hell
no! Hell no!
Hiding behind barrels and shit and fucking.
All right. Damn. Well, yeah. Virgil and Wyatt thought Tom was armed. When the shooting started, the horse from that Tom McLaury held jumped to one side. Wyatt said he also saw Tom throw his hand to his right hip.
Okay.
Virgil said that Tom followed the horse's movement, hiding behind it, and fired once or twice over the horse's back. If you guys ever watched the movie Tombstone, that is in that movie.
I can clearly see that happening.
That's in that.
According to one witness, Holliday drew a large bronze pistol, interpreted by some as Virgil's coach gun, from under his long coat, stepped around Tom McLaury's horse, and shot him with a double-barreled shotgun in the chest at close range.
Ooh.
Damn, he fucking littered him, huh? Witness C.H. Ham saw Tom running or stumbling westward on Fremont Street towards 3rd, away from the gunfight, while Frank and Billy were still standing and shooting.
Oh, shit.
Light testified that Tom fell on the foot of a telegraph pole on the corner of Fremont and 3rd and lay there without moving through the duration of the fight.
Oh, shit.
He also saw Tom stagger across the street until he fell on his back. Well, after shooting Tom, Holliday tossed the empty shotgun aside, pulled out his nickel-plated revolver, and continued to fire at Frank McLaury and Billy Clanton. So, how could you go up against Wyatt and Doc at the same time? Right. I mean, come on, and think you're going to make it out alive.
Wyatt had been publicly threatening to kill the Earps for several months, including very loud threats on the day before. Wyatt told the court afterward that Clanton had bragged that he would kill the Earps or Doc Holliday at his first opportunity.
Right.
But when the gunfight broke out, Clanton ran forward and grabbed Wyatt, exclaiming that he was unarmed and did not want to fight. He's like, I'm unarmed. I don't want to fight. To this protest, Wyatt said he responded, go to fighting or get away. Clanton ran through.
All I hear that is in Kurt Russell's voice. Right. Get to fighting or get away.
Yep. Clanton ran through the front door of Fly's boarding house and escaped unwounded.
Of course he did, little pussy.
Of course he did. The whole fucking problem of it all. Mm-hmm. Other accounts say that Ike drew a hidden pistol and fired at the Earp before disappearing, which he probably did. Like Ike, Billy Claiborne was unarmed, and he and Cowboy Wes Fuller, who had been at the rear of the lot, also ran from the fight. And they're like, fuck that, we're out.
So they're gone. So Wes, Billy, and Ike said, bye.
Ike's the one causing the whole fucking problem.
Right.
And he was like, man, these motherfuckers are serious.
I didn't think they would be.
I was just joking, guys.
I was just fucking drunk, man.
But my friends, they don't understand jokes. So,
Well, according to the Tombstone epitaph, Wyatt Earp stood up and fired in rapid succession, as cool as a cucumber, and was not hit. Morgan Earp fired almost immediately as Billy Clanton drew his gun right-handed. Morgan shot hit Billy in the right wrist, disabling his hand. Okay. Forced to shift the revolver to his left hand, Clanton continued shooting until he emptied the gun.
Ooh.
Virgil and Wyatt were now firing. Morgan Earp tripped and fell over a newly buried water line and fired from the ground.
Oh,
he's on his ass, fucking
right.
shooting. Wyatt shot Frank in the abdomen, and Frank took his horse by its reins and struggled across Fremont Street.
Oh, shit. He tried and failed to grab his rifle from the scabbard, but lost control of the horse. Frank crossed Fremont Street, firing his revolver instead. Frank and Holliday exchanged shots as Frank moved across the Fremont Street. And Frank hit Holiday in his pistol pocket, grazing him.
Mind you, everything we just are reading right now took 30 seconds.
Right.
So
Holiday followed him, exclaiming, "That son of a bitch has shot me, and I'm going to kill his ass!"
oh, shit. He only grazed you,
Right.
Holiday.
Morgan Earp picked himself up and also fired at Frank. Frank fell to the sidewalk on the east side of Fremont Street. A number of witnesses observed a man leading a horse into the street and firing near it. And Wyatt, in his testimony, thought this was Tom McClory. He was like, that had been Tom.
Had to been.
Claiborne said only one man had a horse in the fight, and that was Frank.
Okay.
Holding his own horse by the reins, then loosen it. It's his cover, right? And he's going to fucking cover behind it. Wes Fuller also identified Frank as the man in the street leading the horse. So everybody's like, yeah, that was fucking Frank.
That's fucking Frankie.
Frank was behind the horse.
Well, although wounded, Billy Clanton and Frank McGlory kept shooting. One of them, perhaps Billy, shot Morgan Earp across the back in a wound that struck both shoulder blades and the vertebrae. Morgan went down for a minute before picking himself back up. Either Frank or Billy shot Virgil Earp in the calf. Virgil says it was Billy. Virgil, though, fired his next shot at Billy Clanton. Frank, now entirely across Fremont Street and still walking at a good pace according to Claiborne's testimony, fired twice more before he was shot in the head under his right ear.
Oh, shit.
Gone.
Damn. Both Morgan and Holiday apparently thought they had fired the shot that killed Frank. But since neither of them...
sitting there arguing, no, I shot him. Damn it, I shot him.
No, that was me. But since neither of them testified at the hearing, this information is only from secondhand accounts.
I don't think either of them could.
Right. A passerby testified to having stopped to help Frank and saw Frank try to speak, but he died where he fell. Before
shot in the fucking head.
Before he even could be moved. Billy Clanton was shot in the wrist, chest, and abdomen, and after a minute or two slumped to a sitting position near his original position at the corner of the hardware position and the house position and the lot position between the house position and Fly's lodging house position. And fired some shots after sitting with the pistol supported on his leg. So that motherfucker was just, right? Half dead, laying in on the building, resting the pistol on his leg and just firing away. If he does hit somebody, it's going to be an ankle, which would hurt, right?
Obviously.
After he ran out of ammo, he called for more cartridges. He said, I need more ammo. But C.S. Fly took his pistol at about the time the general shooting ended.
Okay, well, a few minutes later, Tom McClory was carried from the corner of Fremont and 3rd into the Harwood house on that corner, where he died without speaking. Passers-by carried Billy Clanton to the Harwood house, where Tom had been taken as well. Billy was in considerable pain and asked for a doctor and some morphine. He told those near him, "They have murdered me. I have been murdered."
I've been moited.
Chase the crowd away from the door and give me air. Billy gasped for air, and someone else heard him say, "Go away and let me die." Ike Clanton, who had repeatedly threatened the Earps with death, was still running.
All right.
William Cuddy testified that Ike passed him on Allen Street, and Johnny Bayham saw him a few minutes later on Tough Nut Street.
Jeez, 3 minutes take that long? How big is that fucking town?
Well,
both Wyatt and Virgil believed Tom McClory was armed and testified that he had fired at least one shot over the back of the horse.
okay.
Billy Clanton and Frank McClory exchanged gunfire with the lawman after that.
Yes.
During the gunfight, Doc Holliday was bruised by a bullet fired by Frank that struck his holster and grazed his hip. Virgil Earp was shot through the calf, he thought, by Billy Clanton. He's like, I think Billy did that one. And they're all just sitting in line now. Who did this to you? Where'd that one from? I think that was him.
I think that
was him.
I think that was Billy.
I think that was Billy. Morgan Earp was struck across his shoulder blades by a bullet that Morgan thought Frank McClory had fired that. He's like, no.
I think that one was Frank.
No, Morgan, I think that was Frank there, Morgan. He was like, yeah, you might be right. Wyatt Earp was hurt. He was like, I'm good.
He's like, I'm all good, boys.
I'm good. What do you need?
I'll be at the bar.
I know exactly what happened. You just let me know and I'll tell you. Tom McClory, his brother Frank, and Billy Clanton were moited. As the wounded lawmen were carried to their very homes, they passed in front of the sheriff's office, and Johnny Behan told Wyatt Earp, I'm going to have to arrest you. Wyatt paused, looked at him for a couple seconds, and said, I won't be arrested today. I'm right here, and I'm not going away. You have deceived me. You told me these men were disarmed. I went to disarm them.
Right.
Dr. George Goodfellow treated the Earp's wounds. Good for Dr.
Good.
He had to be put in there.
Oh, good fellow. Well,
by the way, Dr.
Well, by the way, Dr. Henry M. Matthews examined the dead cowboys late that night. He found Frank McGlory had 2 wounds, a gunshot beneath the right ear that horizontally penetrated his head, and a second entering abdomen 1 inch to the left of his navel. Matthews stated that the wound beneath the ear was at the base of the brain and caused instant death. Sheriff Behan testified that he had heard Morgan Earp yell, "I got him!"
Ooh.
after Frank was shot. However, during the gunfight, Frank moved across Fremont Street, putting Holiday on Frank's right and Morgan on his left. This makes it much more likely that Holiday got the fatal round that killed old Frank.
Mm-hmm. Well, when he examined Tom McGlory's body, Matthews found 12 buckshot wounds from a single shotgun blast on the right side under his arm.
Doc fucked him up.
Oh, between the 3rd and 5th ribs. The wound was about 4 inches across. The nature and location of the wound indicated that it could not have been received if Tom's hands were in his coat pocket. As the Cowboys later testified, they were. So that cannot be true.
If his hands were in his coat, they would have been down, and there's no way to get a gunshot wound under the arm.
His hand was up because he had a fucking pistol in his hand or something. Right. Which also that the coroner's exam supported. They're like, that's true.
Well, that's what the Cowboys testified, is that his hands were down when Doc shot him.
Right, and the coroner's
like, well, that's not indicated of what we, can't be possible if his arms were down. His arm would have a wound as well.
Right. His hands would be down. He had to be,
right.
His weapons up. Dr. George Goodfellow testified about Billy Clanton's wounds at the Spicer hearing. He's like, I can tell you about those wounds. He was like, the angle of the wrist wound indicated that Billy's hand could not have been raised over his head as claimed by the Cowboys' witness.
Oh, shit. Look at this. Their shit's falling apart here.
Damn.
Well, in his coroner's report, Matthews did not mention Billy's arm wound, but witness Keefe, who examined the arm closely, testified later that Clanton was shot through the right arm close to the wrist joint, and the bullet passed through the arm from inside to outside, entering the arm close to the base of the thumb and exiting on the back wrist diagonally. So it went down into his thumb and out. This indicated to the judge that Billy could not have been holding his coat's lapels open, his arms raised, and as the Cowboys testified. Right.
Right, you can't do that.
If his arms are raised, though, if he was like this,
it's not going to be going down.
Right, it wouldn't go down. It would go, like, through.
Right.
So, okay. Well, Dr. Matthews found 2 other wounds on Billy's body. The first was 2 inches from Clanton's left nipple, which penetrated his lung. The other was in the abdomen beneath his 12th rib, 6 inches to the right of the navel. Both were fired from the front. Neither passed completely through his body. The wound to Billy Clanton's right wrist may have been inflicted by Morgan or Doc immediately at the outset of the fight as Billy was drawing his gun. Okay, so he's like, boom, draws his gun, and his gun's in his hand, but he gets shot right there, and it goes down.
That, yeah.
Oh, dude, that would fucking hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That's like you.
Right. But worse.
Obviously.
Ike Clanton filed murder charges against the Earps and Holiday.
What the fucking balls of this guy?
Right. On the 30th of October, Justice Wells Spicer convened a preliminary hearing on the 31st of October on Halloween to determine whether enough evidence are we going to do this or not, basically.
Right.
We'll figure it out. In an unusual proceeding, he took written and oral testimony from about 30 witnesses over more than a month. Sheriff Behan testified that the Cowboys had not resisted, but had thrown up their hands and turned out their coats to show that they were not armed at all. They're just here to talk to each other. He said that Tom McGlory threw open his coat to show that he was not armed, and he was just here to talk with his buddies, and that the first 2 shots were fired by the Earps. Like, those guys did that. Behan insisted that Holiday had fired first using a nickel-plated revolver. He said that Doc guy over there, he had that shiny pistol, and he fucking fired away. Although other witnesses reported seeing him carrying a messenger shotgun. So which was it? Was it?
Clearly, this Behan guy is sticking up for his buds.
Right.
The Earps hired experienced trial lawyer Thomas Fitch as defense counsel. Wyatt testified that he drew his gun only after Clanton and McGlory went for their pistols. He detailed the Earps' previous troubles with the Clantons and McGlorys and explained that he had intended to disarm the Cowboys and that his party had fired in self-defense.
Right.
Fitch produced contradictory testimony from prosecution witnesses during cross-examination, or they appeared to dodge his questions or said that they could not remember. Okay. Justice Spicer ruled on November 30th that there was not enough evidence to indict the men. He said the evidence indicated that the Earps and Holiday acted within the law and that Virgil had deputized Holiday and Wyatt. The Earps and Holiday were free, but their reputations had been tarnished.
Yep.
The Cowboys in Tombstone looked upon the Earps as robbers and murderers and plotted their revenge.
The fuck did.
Oh, shit.
Oh, man. Virgil.
Plotted their revenge.
Right. Just after this, Virgil was ambushed on the 28th of December while walking between saloons on Allen Street in Tombstone. He was maimed by a shotgun blast, which struck his left arm and shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Ike Clanton's hat was found in the back of the building across Allen Street from where the shots were fired.
Fucking Ike.
Wyatt wired U.S. Marshal Crowley P. Drake, asking to be appointed Deputy U.S. Marshal with authority to select his own deputies. Drake granted the request in late January and provided the Earps with some funds that he borrowed from Wells Fargo. Variously reported as between $500 to $3,000. So
that's a hell of a discrepancy.
Basically, he said, do what you need, bud.
Pretty much, right?
Do what you need.
Well, in mid-January, Earp's ally Rickabaugh sold the Oriental Saloon to Earp's adversary Milt Joyce, so Wyatt sold his gambling concessions at the hotel. The Earps also raised some funds from sympathetic business owners in town. Wyatt and Virgil submitted their resignations to Dake on February 2nd, 1882, being tired of the criticism leveled against them, but he refused to accept them because their accounts had not been settled.
Right.
On the same day, Wyatt sent a message to Ike Clanton that he wanted to reconcile their differences, which Clanton refused. Clanton was also acquitted that day of the charges against him in the shooting of Virgil when the defense brought in 7 witnesses who testified that Clanton was in Charleston at the time of the shooting.
What?
What?
Okay. All right.
How is that even possible?
Well,
that makes no fucking sense at all.
What are you going to do?
Oh, wow.
Well, the Earps needed more funds to pay for the extra deputies
Of course.
and
What is this
associated
fucking
expenses.
politics all over again?
Yep. As contributions from supportive businesses owners were not enough.
Of course they're
Hey,
not.
these motherfuckers don't got no money. On 13 February, Wyatt mortgaged his home to lawyer James G. Howard for $365, which is about $9,500 today.
That's it.
He was never able to repay the loan, and Howard foreclosed on his house in 1884.
He was able to. He just didn't give a fuck.
All right.
Morgan Earp was murdered.
Oh, no.
You heard that? Morgan Earp was murdered
Oh, jeez.
on March 18th while playing billiards,
He
shot
was.
by a gunman firing from a dark alley through a door window into the billiard room.
Oh, jeez.
He was struck in the right side. The bullet shattered his spine, passed through his left side, and lodged in the thigh of George A. B. Barry,
Yeah.
while another round narrowly missed him. A doctor was summoned and Morgan was moved from the floor to a nearby couch while the murderers escaped in the dark. He died about 40 minutes later. Well, Wyatt felt that he could not rely on civil justice and decided to take matters into his own hands to kill the murderers himself.
He fucking sure had to.
Oh, yeah, you know he had to.
Oh, my. Jeez, oh, Pete.
That's
Got some shit going on here.
That's the old story that he's got to take matters into his own hand and kill the murderers himself, so you know what comes next.
Right.
The old fucking vendetta ride, baby.
Right. Fun fact, a hand-drawn sketch of the fight sold at auction for $380,000 in 2010.
Which was drawn by Earp himself, I believe.
Yep.
And as usual, a little background on some popular culture type shit. The first film to show the gunfight was Law and Order,
Yep.
which was made in 1932, and arguably the 2 most famous depictions of the gunfight were in 92's Tombstone, starring Kurt Russell as Wyatt, and 93's Wyatt Earp, starring Kevin Costner.
That is actually, if you can make it to that scene, it's fucking great.
Right.
But the movie's like 3 hours long, so.
Make sure you guys go back and check out part 1 of the series. If you haven't already and you're just tuning in now, part 1 is all about his early life and all that good shit. Part 3 will be, as we have already led up into, and you know, his 2 brothers. One brother's murdered, one got ambushed. And we're going to hear all about the infamous Earp Vendetta Ride, and the part 4 will lead into Earp's later life, going to Hollywood and settling down and eventually passing away. So that's what we have for you guys coming up next week, in 3 days, Tuesday. This will be out on Friday, so Tuesday. So go make sure you're checking out part 3. Meanwhile, over on the Mouthy Michiganders, we have Deadwood, which we just finished up episode 5, the trial of Jack McCall. So another fucking legend, dead, Wild Bill's dead. Jack McCall on trial, and we'll be getting into episode 6 where a plague is going to hit the ill-fated town of Deadwood for these next couple weeks. So look out for that. And as usual, well, not as usual, a new one, sports history for Mountain Michiganders as well. Check us out over there. For now, we'll be back next week. Wyatt Earp Part 3, the Earp Vendetta Ride. We are the Mountain Michiganders with
Bang, dang.